I am the master. Okay, so there are a couple things that you need to know. Otherwise, you'll rip on. This is the question. What this is. Your apprentice about this person. Okay, so there's a couple things that you need to know to avoid malpractice, and there are a couple things that you need to know about hypnosis, so that way you avoid malpractice and you represent your field correctly. After studying the mind and helping myself with some self-help for the past 5 years, I've decided that there are a couple things. After studying self-help for the past 5 years and studying the mind and our neurology and how we work, I've learned a couple things that most people will never ever realize. What do I do? Okay, so wait, there are a couple things you need to know about hypnosis before you, so that way you avoid committing malpractice and you represent your field correctly. So as you listen intently and feel great about what you're about to hear, and you look into my spirit and you see things that you're supposed to do, you can observe the true greatness within yourself. You can feel great about yourself because you are an amazing person. That's just how it is. So what we're going to talk about today are a few things that most people don't really know about hypnosis. So we're going to figure out a couple things that we need to avoid when practicing hypnosis. The first thing we need to do is we need to recognize that going straight into hypnosis is a bad idea. You don't just bring someone in and say, "Oh, all right, you're out. All right, here are a couple suggestions. Come back up. You're done." That's not how it works. How hypnosis works is like you have to work with the person. Like I picture it as there are two in the situation between you and the client. I see there's I see it as there are four main entities in the room that you could consider like the higher self, which is like the puppet master of each person, of both the hypnotherapist and the client. And then there's like the puppet, which is what we see, which is the actual physical being, physical, mental, emotional being that you see. So we need to talk to the person. We need to dispel fears that we are going to take over them. We're just simply telling their puppet master to operate a little bit differently. So what we need to do is we need to talk with them, dispel some fears, dispel the idea that we are in absolute control of them, and we need to establish a common ground of understanding when it comes to hypnosis. Okay, the next part that we need to do, that we need to understand is like what are suggestibility tests for? If you've ever seen, hold on a second. If you've ever seen stage hypnosis, then you've probably experienced a test where they will have the people on stage. They will have the people on stage put balloons on one hand and a heavy book on the other, or like an anvil or whatever. And he will test to make sure that their arms are moving, that they're moving when he talks to them, when he makes a suggestion. So when you see that test in play, when you give that test to your client, what what do you do that for? What is your main reason for doing that? Because with suggestibility tests, it's there's a very distinct purpose for it, and a lot of people don't really recognize what it's really for. So, so I don't know if you probably guessed it by now, but suggestibility tests are for the people being suggested to, for the clients, the people on stage. It's not for the hypnotherapist because the hypnotherapist knows that anyone can be suggested. Anyone can be hypnotized. Anyone can be entranced. So with suggestibility tests, are you giving it out as a means of convincing yourself, or are you doing it to convince your client? Are you doing it to convince the person on stage? Are you doing it to convince the audience? Because suggestibility tests, that's what it's for. It's to convince the person being suggested. It's to develop their belief. Because we know that anyone can be suggested. All right, the next thing that we need to know is that we need to let the other person know that they're still in control at all times. We need to avoid anything that says, "Oh, we are the ones hypnotizing him. We're only the tour guides. We are only the person asking the puppet master to operate a little bit differently. So that's one thing that we really need to avoid because legally, all hypnosis is considered self-hypnosis. The American Board of any hypnotherapy any organization or association on hypnosis will tell you that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So we need to avoid giving the impression that, oh, hey, we are the ones controlling them. We're influencing them to be sure, but they are always in control. Our client is always in control. So that's one thing that we really need to make sure that we make clear from the get-go is that they are always in control. We are the tour guides. That's it. Okay, so now that we've covered the three things, like we need to make sure that we don't dive straight into the hypnosis. We need to know what the suggestibility tests are for. We need to let the person we need to avoid coming off as, oh, we're in total control. So how do we avoid those things? Well, one, we can do the pre-talk. We can address fears, concerns, ideas, subjects that might be of interest to the person who's being hypnotized. Then we can do then we can make sure that when we give suggestibility tests that it's for them, it's to induce belief into the other person. If we and by keeping that thought in our mind and keeping that congruency in our mind, we can actually help the other person go into a state of deeper trance hypnosis when the time comes. And then finally, what we can do is we can simply address the fact that the other person is always in control. It's always getting the person to accept suggestions as their own. Getting the other person to recognize that they're the one hypnotizing themselves. Even by the simple act of listening, they're still hypnotizing themselves because we always have control of our subconscious mind. We don't always exercise that control very well, as Napoleon Hill says in his book Think and Grow Rich, but regardless, we still have absolute control of our mind. Okay, so this video, if listened and implemented properly, will help you avoid malpractice as a hypnotherapist. It will help you avoid and will help you avoid it will help you avoid misconstruing any hypnotherapy sessions that you might attend in the future. And it will help you, if you apply this correctly, you will avoid malpractice when inducing hypnosis into another person, and you will allow yourself to understand what specifically is going on the next time you visit your local hypnotherapist. And if implemented correctly, if understood correctly, you'll have a far better time when accessing your unconscious faculties, when accessing your your greater self. So that's all for now, and have a good day. Good day. So that's all for now, and have a good day, night, afternoon, whatever it is for you right now. And I'll talk to you soon.